Perfect competition. Perfect competition. Question 1. According to the article, in the past couple of years, consumers in South America, Russia, and China developed a taste for beer and demanded for hop straws. Then, in 2006, the biggest hop producer, Germany, had an extremely dry year. Which group best represents the correct shift in the demanded and supply curves? Here we have an ADAS model. First things, we need to identify which lines is supply curve and which is demand curve. As P price leads on y-axis and Q quantity leads on x-axis. We can tell that the upward sloping line are supply curves and the downward sloping line is demand curves. Because higher price induce higher quantities of production on the supplier side and lower quantities of consumption on the consumer side. P1 is the equilibrium of the demanded and supply at the initial stage. The intersection of the original demanded and supply curve, we can eliminate graph A. The increase of demanded for hop in South America, Russia, and China would push the demanded curve outward or to the right. Because more demanded will cause the price and the quantity of product to increase if the supply curve unchanged. The second stage, equilibrium P2, will be intersection between the initial supply curve and the shift demand curve. We can eliminate graph C. We learned that in 2006, Germany, as the world's biggest hop producer, has an extremely dry year, giving the global hop supply a heavy blow. The supply curve would therefore shift inwards or to the left, because now for every fixed quantity of production, the cost would be higher, or for every dollars the company spent, the production output would be lower. We can eliminate graph B. The correct answer is graph D. The final equilibrium P3 is the intersection between the two red curves, denoting a higher price level and a lower quantity than P2.
Question 2. According to the article, consumers in South America, Russia, and China increased their demand for beer, so the demand for hop straws. Suppose that the market automatically clear after this increase in demand, and that there are no other changes in the market. Which pair of graphs the best represents the short-run impact on profit and output of Australian hop growers? The first question gives a peek at how the hop industry as a whole would respond to the occurrence of market changes, but it doesn't explain for us how these shifts happen on a macro level. Now we look at how the market change influences the economic behaviors of a typical hop grower and how it affects the entire market. The left graph of each pair is individual growers' production curves. The one with the steeper slope is marginal cost, and the other one is average total cost. The intersection of these two curves is the equilibrium of individual production, which determines the price and the quantity level for the break-even point. When the demand for hops rises, the demand curve shifts outwards. The new market equilibrium has a higher price point for hops and a higher quantity of production. For the individual hop growers, more profits are to be made for each unit of hops harvested and sold. we project the new increased price level onto the marginal cost production curve. The intersection between the horizontal dotted red line and the marginal cost determines the new increased quantity of hot output. The aggregate of the rise in individual output amounts to the increase of hot production in the graph on the right. In the short run, the individual hop grower would reap a surplus, which is represented by the red rectangle. The amount of surplus can be calculated by multiplying the profit per unit by quantity. The profit per unit is the difference between the black solid line, which is the cost per unit, and the red dotted line, which is the price per unit. Going over each graph, it is clear that graph D is the correct answer. So the graph A, B, and C are wrong answers.
Question 3. This question follows from the short-run situation described in question 2. Which pairs of graphs best represents the long-run impact on profit and output of Australian hop growers? Assume that the hop market is a constant cost industry. Question 2 considers the short-run effects of an increase for hop demands. The biggest assumption for the short run is that no entry into or exit from market could happen. However, in the long run, the picture will be different. In a competitive market, hop growers can join in or leave from the industry based on whether or not they can make a profit. Only when for individual hops growth the equilibrium is break-even. For example, profit can be lost or made. The number of participations in the market remains stable. As we have learned from question 2, individual hop growth reaped a surplus. Therefore, in the long run, we should see an increased number of hop growth encouraged by the profit, which leads the aggregate supply curve to shift outward. The blue supply curve intersects with the red demand curve, establishing a low price point and quantity of production than in question 2. This is reduced the surplus of hop producers, and the reduction will continue until it reaches zero. This is when the price fall back down to the intersections between the marginal cost curve and the area total cost curve. In the graph on the right, new growth stop enter the market and outward shift. The aggregate supply curve stop as well. The market clears a new equilibrium margins. At this point, the quantity of production is higher, but the price is equal to the initial level. Comparing the four graphs, we can see that graph B indicates no curve shift in aggregate demand and aggregate supply model, and yet aggregate total cost curve of individual grocers move down, which is not in line with assumptions that hop market is cost constant. Graph C shows us a deficit, not surplus, and graph D shows low quantity of production at the final stage, which are all incorrect. All in all, only graph A depicts the correct picture. Question 4. Do you think the long-run supply curve is upward sloping, flat, or downward sloping in the hop industry? Explain your reason. Because the production cost of the hop industry remains the same in the long run. As mentioned above, the long-term supply curve is left. Compared to the short-run supply curve, long-run supply curve allows change to be made both in the number of the sellers in the hop industry as well as the scale of production of each individual sellers. The hope industry will be in equilibrium when all producers make normal profit, which is when the hope price equals total average cost, which in turn equals marginal cost.
The shape of the long-term supply curve depends on if the hop industry is subject to constant costs, increasing costs, or decreasing costs. Constant cost industries have flat long-term supply curves. Increasing cost industries have upward sloping supply curves, and decreasing cost industries have downward sloping curves. In this question, we learn that the costs remain unchanged, and therefore the supply curve will be flat in the long run.
Here's why for hop producers. Long-run marginal cost and the long-run average cost do not shift when they change the scale of production or when new comes arrived. Old come exist. The intersection between these two curves is the same, which determines the long-term price for hops. The industry is able to supply any quantity of hops at the same price, which equals to minimum average cost. Factored on the long-run supply, the relationship between the price and the quantity is a horizontal straight line, with price on the y-axis and quantity on the x-axis.